Hey guys, YouTuber Reunited here. Alright, now here I am with another Land Before Time review. Here I am with the review for The Land Before Time 10, The Great Longneck Migration. So, what can I say about this one? Like I said in my last review, this one is definitely probably the biggest fan favorite out of all the sequels. And yeah, there are even some people that really don't like the other sequels, but they do like this one because this is really the only sequel that really has any sort of connection with the original movie at all. Yeah, because if you've seen this movie, you know that Littlefoot ends up meeting his father in this movie. So yeah, I'm not really sure why it really took them this long to really have that happen, but yeah, it was good to finally see that happen in this film. Yeah, and I really wish that I would have seen this film when it was originally released after I found out about that. I mean, I found out about Littlefoot meeting his father in this movie several years after this movie came out, and so then that's when I decided to watch this film for the first time. And yeah, I was really surprised to see that Littlefoot finally did meet his father. I mean, it was just really, really good to see that. And yeah, this film, it does kind of have sort of like a different plot from the other movies. But yeah, it is kind of interesting in a way. Then, but then, when we see the climax of this film, it really doesn't make a lot of sense because in this film it's shown that apparently there are a bunch of long necks that are having this recurring nightmare or something, and they just end up being told through their dreams to just gather up in a certain area. Yeah, and then this film is just showing there are pretty much a, a, a whole bunch of herds of long necks are gathering in the exact same place because they there's this long neck tradition involving a solar eclipse that is actually driving them all to the same location, and apparently they end up gathering together to just catch the sun, as they say. And yeah, it just really is kind of strange, and it really doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, still I think the main conflict of this movie, with Littlefoot finding his father, I think it's done pretty well. I mean, I mean, this film actually does have a few big stars, or to provide the voices. In this film, we have Kiefer Sutherland voicing Littlefoot's father, Bron. James Garner voices another long neck that Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike befriend, Pat, and also the voice of Bernadette Peters as Sue, like a Supersaurus. And yeah, they're all pretty good in this movie. And yeah, we do have all the recurring actors too, like Kenneth Mars as Littlefoot's grandpa, Miriam Flynn as Littlefoot's grandma, and yeah, Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike are all voiced by the same people. But yeah, in this film, it's Littlefoot really who is the only character that's been recast. Yeah, Littlefoot is voiced by a different actor in this film than the previous few films. And yeah, I really did not like Littlefoot's voice very much in this film. I felt like Littlefoot's voice just sounded really wrong in this film. Like I don't know, maybe you could make the argument that he's just that's the result of him getting older, but yeah, I just really did not like Littlefoot's voice in this at all. I mean, I remember I was saying that I didn't like Littlefoot's voice in Secret of Source Rock, but I think his voice here is even worse. I just really didn't like Littlefoot's voice at all, but yeah, everybody else is still good. And this film does have some pretty good moments. I mean, yeah, like I said, it is good to see Littlefoot finally find his father in this film. And yeah, it's good to see Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike befriend their own person apart from Littlefoot. Yeah, they befriend Pat in this. And yeah, uh, and yeah, it's shown that like Braun also does like take care of another young Longneck who's a Brachiosaurus named Shorty, who, yeah, they Littlefoot it kind of goes through like uh, problems with him at first, but then they end up like making amends and they like consider themselves brothers eventually. And yeah, it does like have a good like a fight at the around the end of this film with the sharp teeth, where it has like Braun, Pat, and Littlefoot's grandparents all fighting off the sharp teeth. So yeah, I did enjoy that. And yeah, it does like have a couple of good songs in this film. And yeah, so yeah, overall, I do think that this is a pretty good film. I mean, I think that this is definitely one of the best of the sequels. I mean, not sure if I could really say it is the best one. I mean, I'm sure it is considered the best by some people, but I don't know. I like I've said, I do like the earlier sequels a lot. But yeah, this is probably out of the later sequels. I say this one is one probably the best of like the later sequels. But yeah, yeah, still like it is a pretty good film overall. I really felt that this could have been the time for the films to end. Like with Littlefoot finally finding his father after like these 10 movies, I felt that this would have been like the right time for them to end the series and Littlefoot finally being reunited with his other parent. I felt that this would have been the perfect way to end the films, but yeah, that of course like that wouldn't end up being the case, and yeah, I think that that was really a major misstep for this film to not have it be where the series ends and have Littlefoot like end up like not staying with his father. So yeah, that's like a really big misstep for me. I think that's probably the biggest flaw I take with the film. And yeah, there's also like the conflict. Well, no, the climax really not making a whole lot of sense. So yeah, that is kind of like a few things that kind of did take the film down for me. So yeah, I guess those are probably a couple of the reasons why I really don't know if I can really call this the best sequel. But I do think that this is still a pretty good movie nonetheless. I would give this film probably 3 stars out of 4 once again. I mean, yeah, some flaws with it, but I mean, yeah, still overall, I do think that the good triumphs over the bad in this film. Alright, so yeah, let me just get right into it. Alright, so as the film opens, like it of course like has the opening narration once again from the narrator about dinosaurs. But then like it then shows like Littlefoot is like having like some recurring nightmares about the sun, and yeah, he's like, and his Littlefoot is like talking about it with his grandparents and also with his friends, and it's shown that Littlefoot's grandparents are actually going through the same experience as Littlefoot. And then like his grandpa finally does decide that they do need to just go somewhere, and we're pretty much on an adventure. And then, yeah, and then like as Littlefoot is talking with his friends about it, then like they sing a song about adventures, and at one point like they're talking about like probably going over the water, and it shows Littlefoot like on a log going through the water, and then it like shows like Mo ends up like just jumping over Littlefoot at one point. So yeah, kind of a like nice little homage, but there just to see Mo again. Yeah, but yeah, and then eventually like Littlefoot and his grandparents then just set off on their journey Ernie, and they really don't know exactly where they're going. But yeah, Littlefoot's grandpa just tells them that they're just gonna let their instincts lead them the way. Yeah. And then like as like Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike like really are just curious, and so they end up just going after Littlefoot and following him. And then, like, as Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike journey off, like, they, like, come across, like, a couple of mishaps. And so then they eventually end up meeting like another elderly long neck Pat, and he like offers to tag along with them. And but Sarah was like at first like really not on board with Pat, but then eventually like she let Pat accompany them because they needed help at one point. And so then, yeah, Pat journeyed with Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike. Yeah. And then, as Littlefoot and his grandparents continued to journey, they eventually came across a supersaurus named Sue, and it turned out that she was also driven through the same sense as Littlefoot and his grandparents, and then she ended up tagging along with Littlefoot and his grandparents. And yeah, later on they ended up discovering that there were many other long necks that actually were having the same instincts as well. And eventually they end up reaching a really large crater where there are many other long necks gathering there too. And Littlefoot eventually just goes looking around, and he then meets the small Brachiosaurus Shorty. And Shorty was bullying Littlefoot at first, but then it showed Braun arriving, and then yeah, Littlefoot and Braun were introducing themselves. But then Littlefoot's grandpa appeared, and then yeah, of course, Littlefoot's grandpa recognized Braun, and then Littlefoot's grandpa told him Braun was his father. And Littlefoot he couldn't believe it was his father, and then Littlefoot just then ran off in depression and just confusion. And yeah. And then as he was just really asking his father where he had been this whole time, Braun was then explaining to Littlefoot where he actually has been. Braun was explaining to Littlefoot that before he even was an egg, him and his mother, wanted to find a new home for them to raise kids, and then Braun ended up journeying off to find a new home. And as he was coming back, that was when the earthquake in the first movie had occurred, and so then Braun ended up being separated from Littlefoot and his mother, and then yeah, he then was going off to journey for Littlefoot, but he couldn't find him. But then he did find another group of other young Longnecks, one being Shorty, and so then he took them in, and yeah, he took care of them, and eventually Braun made a whole herd of Longnecks to look after. Yeah, and I think it's kind of strange. In this film, Littlefoot refers to his father as, he calls him Dad, but yet in the first film he called his mother Mother. So yeah, kind of strange. He calls one Mother, but he calls the other Dad. So yeah, kind of a strange inconsistency there. But yeah, and then yeah, it was then showing that Littlefoot then was spending a lot of time with his father, but then it was kind of making Shorty pretty jealous that Littlefoot was getting all of the attention from his father, rather than him. Yeah. And then yeah, it was then showing Pat was continuing to lead Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike. And yeah, he then explained to them that long necks are actually being driven by a tradition of a solar eclipse. And yeah, it's just a sign that the sun will actually be sent crashing down to Earth and then because so every time an eclipse occurs, long necks end up gathering in one location to end up stretching their necks up for them to catch the sun, which is really weird. And yeah, they that'll just give them the ability to propel the sun back up into the sky. And they're going over a pool of magma, and Pat accidentally stepped into it and ended up burning his leg. And yeah, and he tried to just tell Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike to move on, but they were just telling Pat that they weren't going to go without him. And then it was then Littlefoot then one night saw Shorty trying to run away. But Littlefoot stopped him, and he was just telling him that he should stay and they should just be considered themselves brothers. And then yeah, Littlefoot and Shorty then reconciled. But then as Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike arrived and reunited with Littlefoot, it was then like showing a Sharptooth was pursuing them, and yeah, they were being chased by the Sharptooth, but then Pat was fighting off the Sharptooth, but yeah, Pat was at a disadvantage because of his burnt leg, but then Braun then arrived, and he also helped Pat fight the Sharptooth, but then was then later shown that there were also two other Sharpteeth that arrived and were starting to fight Braun and Pat, and then Littlefoot's grandparents then arrived and assisted in the fight too. And so then, yeah, Braun, Pat, and Littlefoot's grandparents all fought off the Sharpteeth, and then, you know, Littlefoot and all the other kids ended up like trying to help as well. Like, yeah, like all the kids, including Shorty, were just like trying to trip the Sharpteeth with a bunch of small rocks and stuff. Yeah. And eventually, the Sharpteeth ended up being defeated, and then it was then like showing them the eclipse was beginning, and then yeah, it was showing like all the Longnecks ending up like gathering around, and yeah, they just gathered on top of the crater, and yeah, they were like doing what Pat was saying before, stretching out their necks, and yeah, yeah, like Littlefoot, his grandparents, Braun, Pat, and Shorty all ended up taking their places too and joined in. Yeah, and then yeah, and as the eclipse occurred, and it ended up like all the darkness ended up just scaring the Sharpteeth away. Yeah, and then yeah, eventually the Longneck all succeed in catching the sun, as they would say, and then yeah, the eclipse then ended, and yeah, everybody was rejoicing, and then after like with the Longneck's mission now done, all the herds just ended up departing in their separate ways. And yeah, and then as Pat was about to leave, Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike then just invited Pat to come to the Great Valley with them, and Pat accepted. And then until then, Sue also ended up like departing with an ultra short sword she met at the gathering. Yeah. And then yeah, when it came to Littlefoot really didn't know what to do because he didn't want to leave like the Great Valley with his grandparents and friends, but he also didn't want to leave his father either. But then, yeah, Sarah, Ducky, Peachy, and Spike then just told Littlefoot that no matter where he goes, they would always be his friends, and then they had a song about it, which was a pretty heartfelt song. Like it actually like did get me a little choked up listening to this song. Like it was actually pretty good. Yeah. And then like it was like kind of showing that like kind of like hinting that Littlefoot was gonna go with his father, but then Littlefoot was then just telling his father that even though he wants to go with him, he just can't leave his grandparents and he's not ready to leave his friends yet. But Braun also told Littlefoot that he couldn't leave his herd either. And so, yeah, Littlefoot and ended up going back to the Great Valley with his grandparents and friends. But yeah, Braun told Littlefoot that he would bring his herd to the Great Valley sometime. And then yeah, Braun ended up like leaving with Shorty, and then Littlefoot then headed back to the Great Valley with his grandparents, friends, and Pat. And like I said, I mean, I think that was a major misstep. This would have been the perfect way for this film series to end, with Littlefoot reuniting with his father and now being with him. And especially like with that Friends song, I really do think that would have been the right thing to do here. But instead, yeah, they like I guess they just like couldn't the creators just couldn't put themselves through to actually take Littlefoot away from his grandparents and friends. Since we've already seen them together this long, they probably just couldn't bring themselves to breaking them up. And so yeah, Littlefoot like stayed with all of them, and yeah, this would then like lead to more sequels. And after this, I kind of feel that this is really where just the sequels just seem like really filler. And yeah, it's just kind of like when the writers and stuff just really stopped caring about anything about the movies and the characters and stuff. Because, yeah, after this, it just kind of feels like it's just like reused elements. So, yeah, kind of a misstep right there. But nonetheless, still a pretty good movie, I'd say. Hey, so yeah, like I said, 3 stars out of 4. I mean, yeah, some flaws with it, and yeah, probably those are the reasons why I can't really say this is the best sequel, but still, like, it is one of the better sequels, I think. So, yeah, alright, so that does it for my review of Land Before Time 10, The Great Longneck Migration. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.